Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. Her name is Tania Chomyk. Mrs. Tamia, how are you doing, ma?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, for having me here today.
Also, I want to use this opportunity to thank you for the time and the opportunity, Mrs. Tania. Firstly, you are an author. You are also a life transition expert and the founder of Be the CEO of Your Career and Life. Can you please, Mrs. Tania, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mrs. Tania?
Thank you very much. So where I am right now in this space is interesting. I feel throughout my life, throughout my career, I've always been in the helping space, and I realized that it was more about people than process. And even though I worked in a very structured environment, I always found a way where I can help people deal through their own conflict, through their own life transitions, through their own process of accepting how life moves us. And my background is in education, educational psychology. I spent most of my career in higher education. And when I finally took a shift to step off the ladder, this was after I did my coaching certification and the realization of how I wanted to create much more meaningful experiences for people. So it took me to remove myself from structure to really create this space. And so being a CEO of your career is pretty much something that I embraced my CEO power and how I want to help others embrace theirs. So, a lot of introspection, self awareness, time for people to really decide what matters to them. Every decision that we make in life is guided by a framework, and we're the ones who create that framework. When we have a framework to make decisions that are guided by our values, then it's creating a win win no matter what transitions that we're going through. So this is kind of where I'm at, and I'm very grateful to be able to share my wisdom, my expertise with others, and be along the journey with them.
Exactly. Every single thing we are doing on earth is a journey. The journey that we hope that it leads to the light and the destination that we want it to get to. And I'm also glad as a transition expert and also someone who has founded your career life, something really tremendously impactful and also helping people to become more better in their life is so much tremendously huge as well. And that's also brought you to the point whereby you wrote a book Bringing Light to Loss. Can you please, Mrs. Tanya, discuss more about the book? And do you also plan to write more books in the coming future, Mrs. Tanya?
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Bringing Light to Loss really is a book to help people navigate all kinds of losses. And grief is not just attached to death, grief belongs to anything that we've lost in our lives. And this book really is a memoir because it speaks to the losses that I've experienced, starting with the most heart wrenching one, which is the loss of my infant son, Danilo, who passed away and has emerged as an angel 27 years ago. And that book, that experience, I believe, was the catalyst that allowed me to gain this resilience and this self-compassion towards everything else that I would later embrace in my life with the losses of transitions in relationships, careers, and so forth. This book really began many, many years ago, starting with a research paper in my master's class. And I feel that writing has always been my solace. I feel like grief and the grief that I went through, this profound grief, I found a way to deal with it. And everyone is going to have their own unique way of dealing with grief. There
Yeah.
is no manual that says this is how you do it. But we need to understand that it's a human experience, and every human is different, and we're going to experience it all differently. And writing that paper was very it really helped me with my grief. It was very therapeutic. And it's like that paper was meant to come out years later in this book because it resurrected through the storytelling of a speech. So it's like that loss of my son, that angel became this messenger that was supposed to share this light on others. And I'm now sending that message through my story, through this book. So years later, and that just shows you how grief never goes away. It's always there, but there's a way to transform it into something beautiful and to see grief as being something beautiful. And so, this bringing light to loss is my way, is my son's way of sharing that light to others. And holding on to his legacy, $5 of every book sold is going to the Child Life program at the Montreal Children's Hospital. And this is how I'm going to honor his legacy. So, this is the first book I wrote. And you asked me the question, is there another? Someone once said to me, when you write a book, it usually lends it to another. And I could see another one coming. And probably the focus will be more about how to really embrace that CEO power that we all have within ourselves. Because this is what I've been able to do through all these losses and how I've seen them as doorways to something to create meaningfully.
Firstly, my heart goes to your lovely son. And the beauty about the son you lost is that it wasn't something that drained you down or caused you to go elsewhere. It was something that was built in to be a source of growth for you. And you've grew to a point whereby you've done tremendous things. And now you've even written a book, and now you are also dedicating some earnings to some charity organization, some people who are also in need, which shows the sense of growth and strength you've gained from that perspective in life. And that is why I would like us to drive to this connection of grief. Because whether every single one of us likes it or not, we will always face grief. We will always face someone or always face loss from someone who is really, really close to us. So grief is often seen as people as like a pain or an absence from someone. How do you think, from the experience you've had, from the ones you've had, the grief you've had, um, can listeners begin to see loss as a doorway to growth rather than an ending, um, Sister Tania?
Thank you, Timmy. So, yes, grief is often seen as something that we need to get through. But I have learned to believe that it really is a doorway. And what it does is it invites us to look deeper, to kind of connect what truly matters to us when we're going through this process of grief, because there's so many stages of grief that we're going to be going through. And when we allow ourselves to fully feel, that grief can guide us to new understanding, to be more empathetic, and to even experiencing joy, showing us that love never really leaves us. It simply transforms.
I totally agree. When loss happen, most especially if it's someone that is very close to us and someone that we really, really love, it makes us and it drives us to be a more empathetic person. It makes us to understand how depth pain is. It made us also understand how one can get back up from depths of pain or ups and down from the loss he or she has had. So most of the time, people who face such situation have the sense of empathy and have the sense of joy, as you said earlier, inner joy that is really, really amazing and something that we can't find anywhere elsewhere. And your book also reframes grief as a teacher. Some people will say, how can something that is really hot, really hurt one person to that extent be a teacher? So, what do you think are some of the most surprising lessons grief can reveal when we allow ourselves to fully to feel it fully, Mrs. Tania?
I think one of the most surprising lessons is that our hearts can expand even in the midst of pain. We discover this inner strength that we didn't know that we had. And it shows us how interconnected we are with others and with the spirit world. So for me, my angel in heaven, he continues to guide me, turning those moments of sorrow into quiet moments of insight and love. And when you've had profound loss, that's when you know you've had profound love. And that could never be replaced. So it's it is that it teaches us that even amidst all the sorrow, there is those moments of joy. And it's okay to feel them. In fact, they go hand in hand.
That shows that it's 100% fine for us to feel the sense of grief in ourselves at times. When we face grief, is a teacher. It teaches us to become more better. It teaches us to come back up and also do a lot of great things in the society we find ourselves. It makes us to also see some light in life and also some truths that we never discovered during those time on earth. And also, you also spoke about the invisible strength passed down through family and culture. Family and culture is one of the most important things that we know we need in our life when we are on earth. How do you think listeners can also tap into that ancestral or cultural resilience during hard times, Mrs. Tania?
So we all carry the wisdom and strength of those who came before us. All of us do, right? And it could be in the traditions, it could be in the stories, in the simple acts of resilience that are modeled by our family. Our family has gone through hardships. All of our families have before us. And so when we tap into that, into the roots of who we were and the stories and the lives that our ancestors went through, honoring those rituals, sharing stories, remembering how past generations survived their challenges, it reminds us that we're not alone and that we have inherited their courage. And that's larger than ourselves. And it's like we need to perpetuate that for our future generations because that pattern continues.
The beauty of our ancestors and our forefathers and even our culture as well, the beauty about it is that they have the sense of resilience. They know how they can, give the sense of grief and also ease the kind of pain that we find on earth. And that is why when we are facing triumphs, most especially when we lose someone that is very close to us, if we can tap into this, our ancestral or our cultural resilience, it really helps us in many ways because there are many things we can gain from them. There are many things we can assimilate and also improve ourselves as well to make ourselves more impactful and also more stronger and also bring the come back to be a source of growth and a source of inspiration to a lot of people we find around us. And I would also like to drive to the point of hope. Hope is something that is very huge because when we face loss most of the time, there is something that we need most of the time, which is hope. Hoping that we can come back more stronger, hoping that we can find the joy that we've lost during the recent time. So, in moments when hope feels far away, what do you think are some of the practical or daily practices that can help listeners stay connected to life meaning, Mrs. Tanya?
Thank you, thank you. And you are so right. We need to find that hope, and we can all find it within ourselves. But it's daily practices that we need. Those are the things that anchor us. And gentle rituals such as prayer, such as a gratitude prayer, meditation, even gratitude lists, the things that you're grateful for, forgiveness, um, lighting a candle for the person that you have lost. Nature also has a powerful guide. Being outdoors in nature, feeling the senses, just being in flow, because it reminds us that life is in flow and we just keep going. And so small walks outside can reconnect us to the rhythm of life, Speaking to your angel. So for me, I speak to my angel every day. I invite my angel into my life. I'm receptive to have my angel with me. That inner spirit is that guide, and even quietly inviting support, that reassurance when hope feels so distant. Honestly, when we open our hearts and we are receptive to what comes to us, it's powerful. And so these little things can really help bring us closer to finding hope and meaning.
I 100% love what you said earlier. That shows that no matter how little or no matter how small the things we do when we are feeling down or when we are facing pain, it can be a source of healing. It can be a source of development. It can be a source for us to come back up and give a sense of life that has a new meaning. So we should just pick the little things that we know we can do that can make us be up, happy, or more stronger in the life of ourselves because hope can feel far away. But if we can find something that's around us, that makes us happy, that makes us to feel the sense of strength again, those little things, as you said, you speak to your angels every single day. So those things are things you do daily that really helps you. And we as humans, or we as people who could be listening right now, should try our best to try to know what works for us and how we can also find something that is little, very small, that really helps us heal and also helps us to develop this sense of strength despite the hope or despite the pain that we're facing at that moment. There will always be something that is always with us. Also, I would like to drive to the point of misconception, Mrs. Tanya. Grief is something that has a lot of misconception. A lot of people say some odd things when it comes to grief. What do you think from the experience you've had are some of the misconception about grief that you think keep people stuck in the cycle of shame or silence, Mrs. Tanya?
Yeah, thank you. So, one misconception is that grief has a timeline and that we should get over it by a certain date. And that is not true. Another is that showing emotions is a weakness. Both of these can trap people in silence and guilt. Grief is deeply personal, and there's no right way to do it. But embracing it fully with honesty and compassion allows healing to emerge naturally. There is no timeline for grief. And so this is the biggest misconception is when people say, "Oh, you should be over it." That's the hardest thing, but we need to encase the grief that we're feeling within ourselves and not allow those comments, those words to infiltrate how we're feeling. This is where we build that resilience to remove that negative energy and just contain what we need to in order to get through it. So, being compassionate, pacing our pain, taking time to heal and to feel. These are important things. So, really, that's where that resilience is built in, is to not be exposed and not to allow what society may be saying outwardly to us to let that affect how we're coping with it.
We have to get the answers ourselves. It shouldn't be from the society or the community. They can say what they think, it is their opinion, but it comes back to us. How we are going to heal lies back to us, and I do not know how one can do it if one do not open his or herself or expatiate what he or herself is really passing through when it comes to grief. That is the only way the embracing can come in, and that is the only way that healing can comes in, because it is when we bring it out, that is when those positive energy starts to come in. I really realized this thing, during the time I usually be a kind of person who do not usually open up. But when I started opening up, I saw the changes. I saw that when I say it and I let people know about it, the positivity or the positive energy starts to sink in, and sink in, which is something we want. Because whether we like it or not, healing comes naturally. It's something that comes from the universe, something that we could not even see, but we can feel it. So we have to try our best to know how we can speak up and also open up, and also try our best to not listen to what the society is saying about grief. We have to come, it has to come back to us as humans to know how we can sort the situation we find right at the front of us in the right way. Also, I would like to also drive back to your book, Bringing Light to Loss. If there is also one lesson you think from the experience you've had, I know you do write about your son you lose, how you overcome the trauma, the ups and downs. What do you think is one of the lessons? And also, for listeners who really want to support someone grieving, what do you think are the best ways to show up without trying to fix or minimize their pain, Mrs. Tanya?
Okay, well, I thank you for that. I'm going to start by, I guess, the second part of the question for listeners who want to support someone grieving. The most powerful support, I would say, is presence. Listening without judgment, offering a hug, or simply being there is more healing than giving the advice. And avoid trying to fix, rush, or explain the grief. Instead, honor what the person's experience is and validate their feelings. Sometimes silence, honestly, or a gentle question like, how can I support you today, is all that's needed. People who will say, oh, if there's anything that you need, let me know, usually won't get a response because the person who's grieving will not respond to something like that. They will respond to something if you give them how you're going to help them. So, do you need help today with caring for your children? I'll be there for you. That's going to give the griever an opportunity to say, yes, I would love that. Or I would love just to have your company here. We need to put questions forth for the griever that invite a response. And just sometimes being there for them, just to listen, to allow them to cry, to allow them to share is all you need. And so often people will say that they're rather grieve on their own. And this is why a lot of people grieve in isolation. But when you can find space and create that space for someone who's grieving, you're creating a more open community to talk about it, and finding spaces where we can do those kinds of things, share our feelings and emotions becomes really, really important in this process.
Hmm. What you said currently now is 100% powerful, to be honest with you, Mrs. Tanya. We will all, as you said, continue to face grief. And what you bring out, the light that you bring out when people want to support someone that is really grieving, we have to try our best to listen and also show, most especially, presence. Presence is very important for us to give in to the person who is grieving. If we can continue to show the sense of attention, and as you said, I love what you said in that part, because someone that is grieving, when we say, if you need anything, let me know, most of the time they might not get back, but we have to put it forward. Do you need this? Do you want this? How can I help you with this? Those are the things. Now we are taking this more further with someone who is grieving. He or she will be able to now speak up and say, yes, I think I need this. Yes, I think I want to do this. So those are the things that we also need to understand. But most especially, presence is very important. The presence of the person who wants to get the person who is grieving is very important. Showing the sense of attention and honor is something that is very, very tremendously beautiful. It's something that even the person who is grieving will never forget, because during that time they are really weak. And when they remember, even when they've got back to the top and they remember this person was there for me during this time, it is something that will continue to stay in their mind. And we want to, those type of things are more beautiful and more, tremendously powerful than anything on earth. And also, Mrs. Tanya, there is also a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mrs. Tanya, what do you think that thing will be, Mrs. Tanya?
Oh, that's a really good question. What we have to bring back from our ancestors. You know what I think I would say is the simplicity of life. how family was so valued, how culture was so valued, traditions, honoring those things, just being in the present moment, not feeling rushed that you have to be everywhere and do everything. I feel the society has become so much in a rush, so much fast pace. And if there's anything that I could bring back, would be that simplicity to honor and to cherish family and cherish each other and cherish community and rituals and traditions and to live by them. Um, that is something that I would definitely, because my book speaks about the past and three generations of Ukrainian women in my family,
Mm.
and just immersing myself in those stories, I felt so proud and I felt so alive. And I thought, wow, to think that this is part of who I am and to think that I have the power to perpetuate these traditions and these rituals. And if I really firmly believe strongly into holding those things together, then I'm going to be able to do as much as I can and try to protect again, in case ourselves from the rest of society if it doesn't serve us, and work with what serves us, especially when it comes to things that are really rooted in our values, in our traditions, and in our DNA and our ancestors.
And that is it. Simplicity is something that we need in our time. Simplicity is beautiful. Simplicity makes us to live the sense of presence. We do not need to rush. Whether we like it or not, by the end of the day, they will say, whether even I as the podcast host like it or not, they will say, Tim Tokwe has, has passed on and he has moved on. That's life. We are all going to live one day. We just need to continue to stay at the present, embrace the life that we find, the community, staying kind and staying simple. I think if we can do that, just spend time to slow down and do that, I think the world will also be in a more better shape. We will also have people who have more opportunities, and we'll also see people who live the sense of empathy and kindness, which we are really lacking in our time currently. I also want to use this opportunity to thank you for the time and the opportunity on facing this grief and also overcoming it and using it as a source to impact others, to also make other people to understand how they can also get through it and also overcome it. It is not easy, to be honest with you, to lose someone that one give birth to. It is really tough, most especially as a mother. And I'm so glad that you are strong enough to overcome it. And I also want to thank you for the time and the opportunity. Thank you so much, Mrs. Tania.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I really, really appreciate being here. Thank you so much.
All right, Mrs.
Together,
Tania.
we're shining light on others. That's what we're
Exactly.
doing. We're bringing
That's
light to loss to others.
that's just it. So I thank you for the time. So have a wonderful day, Mrs. Tania. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.